Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and we do have a new wildfire, and you're looking at it here. This is the Sunshine Wildland Fire that is burning just to the west of Boulder. If you're joining us from Boulder or anywhere here along the Front Range, you can probably see the smoke that's coming from this wildfire, which we first got reports of a structure fire a little over an hour ago in this area. This is west of Mount Sanitas, where in Sunshine Canyon, where this fire is burning. But we first got reports of this a little over an hour ago, but it was about a little less than an hour ago when we first received word via Boulder Emergency Management that the fire had apparently jumped into some of the nearby wildland. This is now prompting mandatory evacuations for this area of Sunshine Canyon. The evacuation zone is just to the west of the city of Boulder. Last check, nothing inside the city of Boulder. What you're looking at here, if we were to kind of branch out this map a little bit, Boulder is just to the east on the right-hand side of the screen that you're looking at here. And again, this is Sunshine Canyon. The 2900 block of Sunshine Canyon is where this fire is burning, and the evacuation zone is west of Boulder and just west of Mount Sanitas. It's near Bristlecone Way, where at this point we understand where this fire is currently burning. But again, nothing within the city of Boulder right now is under evacuation orders. Should note, we were just showing you all that smoke a second ago, and that smoke is burning right over, that smoke is going right over Boulder. So this fire is just to the west of Boulder, and these winds are coming directly out of the west, and that's meaning that smoke is going right over the city. So it may look like the fire is burning maybe a little bit closer than it is, because that smoke is going right over the city of Boulder. But again, this quite a bit of smoke coming from this fire. We don't have any idea at last check of acreage or containment on this fire at this point, but we do understand that there are mandatory evacuations. Your phone may have rung about those. A couple things we also want to pass along is that wireless emergency alerts are being sent out to the evacuated zone. So if you do have those wireless emergency alerts on and you've not received an alert, that means you are not under an evacuation zone yet. And as I mentioned, there's nothing within the city of Boulder at this time that is under a mandatory evacuation. But a couple notes as well. This is a fairly rural area, and as a result of that, there may be some large animals that may require evacuation. Large animals can go to the Boulder County Fairgrounds, and also the Humane Society of Boulder Valley is open for pets and or small companion animals that may need evacuation as well. So again, you can take your pets to the Humane Society of Boulder Valley, and also large animals, horses, things like that, can go to the Boulder County Fairgrounds. But again, just kind of catching you up, this is a newly developing situation, so our details and our understanding of what exactly is going on here is still fairly limited at this point. But it was a little less than an hour ago, about 55 minutes ago, when we first got word that this fire had jumped from a structure fire and onto some of the wildland, and this is now obviously, you can tell here, a fairly substantial, or what appears to be a fairly substantial wildfire, and pretty clearly based on the amount of smoke, it does appear that there's not a ton of containment at this point, and unfortunately, because of these winds that are fairly strong, I'll just say this meteorologically, it does appear that this fire may be continuing to perhaps spread at this point. So these winds are coming straight out of the west. Again, that's taking that smoke and blowing it right over Boulder and much of the Front Range. So most of us here along the Front Range, I would imagine if we had a due northwest view from us here in downtown Denver, we'd be able to see this. Again, a lot of you are probably able to see this at this point. These winds have been gusting as strong as 45 to 50 miles an hour in this evacuation zone. It's also very, very dry out there. We got an air temperature in the 40s, but a dew point, that's a measured amount of moisture in the atmosphere, is well below zero, about -5, and that tells us that it's a very, very dry air mass. So unfortunately, that is not going to help out firefighters in this case. What will help out firefighters is that it's about 3:15 right now. Within the next 2 hours, we should see these winds start to lighten substantially. In the next 3 to 4 hours, these winds will turn much, much calmer. And also, that relative humidity, those dew points will come up a bit. So right now, firefighting conditions certainly not good. But in the next 2 to 3 hours, we do expect substantial improvement, both in terms of wind and in terms of the dryness of the atmosphere. We do expect both those things to improve significantly in the next 2 to 3 hours, between about 5 and 6 or so this afternoon, so somewhere around sunset. Red flag warning, a fire weather warning just issued by the National Weather Service office in Boulder at 2:21 p.m. That was after we got word that this fire had jumped, but those winds had been fairly strong and also, frankly, a bit stronger than anticipated today. But again, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds probably not helping things on out at this point. But to kind of just recap, I know I've said a lot here. We do have this wildfire that you're looking at here. This is burning in Sunshine Canyon, just to the west of the city of Boulder, and that Sunshine Canyon area is under a mandatory evacuation due to a structure fire that jumped from a structure and onto the nearby wildland. The evacuation zone is west of Boulder, and if you are within that mandatory evacuation zone, you should have received a wireless emergency alert. There's a look at the map right now of the evacuation zone. Those red shaded areas are under that mandatory evacuation. This is the fire itself. When we first received reports of it, it was burning in the 2900 block of Sunshine Canyon, and the evacuation zone, what you're looking at there, is just the west of Mount Sanitas, and it's Bristlecone Way that we understand at this point is right in the kind of epicenter of where this fire is. I should also note, and again I mentioned this earlier on as well, that there is nothing within the city of Boulder that is currently under a mandatory evacuation at this point. So again, if you're joining us from Boulder, it may look a little more, it's certainly an ominous situation. We're certainly monitoring for it in Boulder, especially since these winds are unfortunately carrying this fire, assuming it's still burning. They're carrying this fire into Boulder. It's a westerly wind, but I should say that the smoke may make it look a little bit worse right now because that smoke is being carried right over Boulder. So want to reemphasize that there is nothing within the city of Boulder right now, as of last check, that is under an evacuation order. So again, nothing within Boulder. This is for Sunshine Canyon, just to the west of Mount Sanitas, which is under that mandatory evacuation zone. Those winds, again, straight out of the west, gusting as high as 50 miles an hour earlier today, but within the last hour or so, those winds have been a bit closer to 40 to maybe 45 mile an hour maximum gusts. And to repeat also some of those animal notes as well, the Humane Society of Boulder Valley is open for pets and or smaller or companion animals. For larger animals, they can go to the Boulder County Fairgrounds. So again, horses, larger animals can go to that Boulder County Fairgrounds, and the Humane Society open for those smaller and companion animals like pets and things of that sort. But again, what we do know at this point, because this fire starting within, or jumping, we first got reports of this fire jumping onto wildland within the last hour. What we know, unfortunately, is still fairly limited. Don't have an idea about acreage or size or containment about this fire at this point, but the smoke probably does speak for itself. This fire does not appear to have been put out. In fact, based off this, again, looking at the same thing that you are, doesn't look all that great right now there in Boulder. I should say in Sunshine Canyon, with the Sunshine Wildland Fire, as it is being called, according to Boulder Emergency Management. So we'll keep you posted the latest in terms of what we know, but again, just to repeat those top line takeaways, a wildfire of unknown size is burning to the west of Boulder and just to the west of Mount Sanitas. This is the Sunshine Wildland Fire. There are mandatory evacuations, not including anything in the city of Boulder, but just the west of Boulder for the Sunshine Canyon area. And we'll keep you posted the very latest as it comes into us here at the 9 News newsroom, but certainly keeping a close eye on this, and we'll keep you posted the very latest on it right here on 9 News Plus.